everybody, I'm Kate, and this is Celine.
Hello.
So we are Black Sheep United. We are a business development and branding agency based out of Nelson. We've been in town for a couple of years now, but we just moved to Baker, so you've probably seen our cult-like office. As you're walking down Baker, a lot of people pop in all the time wondering what we do. Feel free to stop by anytime. So we are going to overwhelm you immensely today. Here we are. We're going to start off with a little bit of information on branding and what we do, why it's important, and then give you a little breakdown on how you can achieve some branding in your own businesses, and then how we apply that to website development. Is anybody out there, it's really hard to see, looking at building a website right now or branding or in the phases of doing that? We got a couple hands, sweet. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna walk you through, like, basically give you some information on what's available to you, whether you wanna do it yourself or if you wanna hire people, and the kind of the questions to ask. So if you want to ask questions at all, feel free to write them down and we'll do a little Q&A at the end, and you can pick our brains for anything you like. Okay. Awesome. Sweet.
All right, so basically a brand is the personality of a business. So it's the first impression and basically the feeling that you get when you walk in. A brand consists of the look, the feel, and the experience that a customer has whenever they interact with your business or staff. A brand is made up of fonts, colors, logos, imagery, photography, style, design, copywriting, tone, details, and ethics.
So what we generally tell people is that people develop a personality over the course of their life. You're born into the world with a bit of a sense of one, but you develop a sense of humor, you develop a sense of ethics, a way to communicate with people, and that's all that so you can interface with the world as a human being. So a brand is like that for your own business. So it's super important because it's how people relate to you. It's the sense and the feel that they get. It is what we do instead of marketing a lot of the time, and the next slide conveniently tells you why. So instead of just marketing your product to potential customers, which basically you go out there and you try to get their attention, and you stalk them in ads online, and you do all sorts of fun things no one likes. Branding actually generates value that brings clients and potential customers to you, which is why we prefer it. It's a little bit more comfortable. I'm sure everyone in here has been spammed or been stalked by an ad, or we don't know sometimes how they find out what we've been searching online. But they tend to follow you. So a well-done brand makes your company look succinct and whole. It's super important to be consistent across everything. So, if you've got a color scheme or a font that you use, making sure that's consistent across your Instagram, your social medias, your website, your mail-out campaigns, whatever it is. And the goal of everything, obviously, is to instill brand love in the heart of your clients. Celine has a really good analogy for kind of branding on the whole and how it differs from marketing, as if you were at a party with friends.
I'll see if I can sum this up quickly. Basically, when you're at a party and there's kind of two different people. There's one person that's like, hey, how's it going? What do you do? I'm interested in that. Oh, that's cool. What's happening? Kind of in your face and a little bit ugh. And then there's the other person that's just there and they have their unique interests and their opinions, and they don't necessarily try and condone to what everyone else is thinking. They're just there to speak the truth and just be themselves, and that's kind of what you want to present when you're having a brand, basically.
Is this making sense so far? Kind of? We can't see anything. Perfect. Yeah. Okay. So we pulled up a couple examples of brands. These are Canadian brands that have done an extremely good job. If anyone recognizes what this is Sitka. Sitka started in Victoria back when I was just a young pup, and probably before then. And they were just a surf brand there, and they've blown up. They have they've evolved their brand immensely. But when you see or engage with any of their content, any of their products, you really get a strong sense of island life. If anyone's ever lived on the island at all, this is completely what it feels like. Camping out on the beach and going to Sombrio or Tofino. So what they've capitalized on here is lifestyle. And so when they showcase products, there's one of these, look at that. They're showcasing products here and lifestyle and vibes. So their stickers here, and they've got their hat, but they're not front and center. So part of their branding is they're not trying to force it down your throat. Here they're showcasing it in a context of a lifestyle, which is what makes it extremely effective. Also, this chick's pretty rad. I would love to go longboarding there. So this is a company called Panic Forest. They're based out of Calgary. They are a jewelry store, actually, who completely blew up. They do an exceptional job with branding. It's very succinct across all their platforms. They do a beautiful job of sort of being elegant, and yet at the same time a little bit, like there's a kind of a slightly off element or a slightly disturbed element, so they're not pretty, which I think a lot of jewelry stores can fall into the trap of sometimes. So they were really strategic about their branding there. This is not a Canadian company, but they are just awesome and rad, and they do a really fun job with their branding. This is called Loser Machine. They are primarily known for kind of skateboard, snowboard culture, but they do a really good job of creating a grunge style. All of these photos are very intentional, but they have the appearance of not being intentional. We're just trying to show you a couple examples here of how people can kind of convey their style and their brand through media. This is another company out of Calgary, Fiasco Gelato. It's delicious. So this one is, very approachable, very clean. You can really think of ice cream. There's a lot of pink in their branding right now too, which makes you think of sweet things. So they've done a really good job. All their photos are stunning for their site, and they have a really strong, warm personality, which filters through to their service as well, which is really interesting. This is a really rad bar in Gastown in Vancouver called Guilt & Company. They went through a brand shift actually a couple of years ago. I actually highly recommend checking out their website. If you go to Guilt & Co, just search it in Vancouver. It's an incredibly fun and dynamic animated website with lots of color. It's very different than what you usually see, which is why we pulled it in here. And you can kind of get a vibe that they're kind of bringing sort of the old school, like Robert Johnson vibe in with some modern kind of graphics and styles, but at the same time it harkens back to some vintage elements. And then this is Wolf Circus, another jewelry company based out of Canada. They're kind of pulling on a hipster American Apparel vibe. So what we're trying to show you here is like how different jewelry stores and different companies can really convey a strong sense of identity and personality through their branding. And then this is a local company as well. If you guys know Pop Off Leather, they do a wonderful job with their branding. It all kind of evokes a really strong sense of quality, and obviously makes you kind of think of leather and really warm colors and things like that. So you can see how that's really succinct and clear throughout all these images. I think that's it. So now you get to build your own brand. So this is what we do when clients come in and they want to build out their own brand. The step one is unconventional, but we usually say it's actually getting over yourself. So you kind of have to get the fuck over yourself when you start to build your brand. Here we made that nice and said consider that you may not be your customer. And what we mean by that is that you're never really your own market. So I think it's really important that before you start the process of branding that you kind of objectify your business a little bit and step away from it. So it's important to dive in and understand the emotion and the work and the passion that you put into it, but then you have to come back out of it because you're not the person buying it. So you have to figure out how to communicate your value from an objective perspective. So that's step one.
Sure. All right, so step two is build your avatar. So what we mean by this is actually just drawing out a person of your company and then pointing to it and putting certain characteristics to that. So examples of that would be, I want my brand to be humorous, or I want my brand to evoke a sense of strong, passionate determination, or I want my brand to, it also kind of reflects like, say this is someone coming into a storefront, what kind of experience is that person going to have with this brand, with this avatar? Are they going to walk in and feel right at home, like, oh yeah, what's your product? Here it is, and I want to stay here for a little while and chat with you, or is it kind of a quick interaction? So these are things that you want to think about when you're building out your avatar, and you can build out a couple different ones and then kind of just compare and contrast and see, at the end of the day what's going to make sense, but it's a really good step as far as starting point.
Yeah, so we literally actually make clients draw a legit little stick figure and then associate characteristics, because a strong brand is like multidimensional, so you're going to have a sense of ethics, you're going to have a sense of vulnerability, which is super important, a sense of humor, a sense of philanthropy, a sense of professionalism and acumen. So when you build it out, you can actually draw your little person that you want to evoke. So think about the way that your business would dress if it was a person. Think about the way they would talk to people or greet people. And it really just helps you conceptualize in a really strong way so it doesn't feel so abstract. You can just think about that person, and then you can apply that through your materials as you go. Mood boards. We actually have an example of a mood board on the next one. So this is a real brand that we were building out with a client. So this mood board took a little while to build, but what we pulled from it, we were working with a bakery, and they kind of wanted like a Soho, New York vibe, at the same time traditional, a little bit. It's a French-inspired, French-trained bakery, and they're rolling out soon in Roslyn. So this was the mood board that we created for that. So you're pulling line styles, you're pulling photography styles, you're pulling like an interior design style. They actually hadn't finished developing their company or their storefront yet, so we had to really pull examples of what it was going to look like. So all of these things that go into your mood board will really inform your brand as you go. We'll show you the nearly finished product after. And then pulling it.
So just on the example there wasn't necessarily a font, I don't think. Oh yeah, there was, yeah, so a couple fonts. So you can see how everything here, you can actually pull all those little elements out. So the font, the photography style at the top with that's the product there, the bread. Sort of the graphic style, top right corner, and then interior styles from there. You know, you've got warm elements of wood, and there's white tiles, and all of those things kind of, you can pull those little elements together and start kind of breaking down your mood board and make it into more of a succinct piece. So I think... There we go. Right, so this is kind of breaking it down and taking it a little further into the actual designing of it now. So you can see how we kind of got to this point from those images that we just showed you, with line style, with typography, with colors, with the imagery of the wood, with the business card, and it's still in progress, but it's coming along nicely.
And then the last thing is just, again, communication. I keep going the wrong way. I'm very sorry. This is not intuitive. This way? That's it. So developing, copywriting, voice, and tone. This will especially play out as you work on your social media and on your website. Whether or not you swear, or whether or not you use a sense of humor, or whether or not you speak passively with language, or whether or not you speak directly. So all of these things really do. I mean, what's so interesting about branding is there's all these little subtle details that people explore and pick up like a trail of crumbs as they explore your site. So you're not jumping out at them, communicating everything as much as you can. You really want to take their hand and guide them through your website, through all your materials, and it's like
telling a story.
We have one mic. Moving on. So implementing your brand. So this is the stuff we're going to break down a little bit. This is going to be a lot of information pretty quickly. We're not going to go too in-depth on anything, but we're just trying to give like an overall sort of blueprint or a skeletal framework for you to kind of consider everything all at once. So when you're developing your brand, you don't have to go full out and do a full logo. And we will start off by saying, if you guys know the term minimum viable product, as you start your business, you want to do everything you can to look professional, but you want to do it as effective as you can for kind of as cheap as you can without losing quality. So that's a fine line, but it can be achieved, and in that circumstance, depending on your resources, maybe you just want to do a word mark. So
so a word mark is a type of logo, and basically it doesn't have any supporting imagery. It's just a word that's stylized or with a specific font that kind of goes along with your brand. So that's a good starting point. You don't have to go all out and get into Illustrator. That's not your thing.
Yeah, word marks, logos, obviously you guys know what those are, they often go together. So if you are skilled with developing logos, you can design your own. You can always hire a contractor as well to help you out, and you can do that sometimes for trade in Nelson, which is really nice, or you can put up the funds to do it But again, just keeping in mind, just do what you need to do in the short term. A lot of websites, even large websites, you'll often find they just have a stylized font for their logo, and that's kind of all you need, so you don't have to go too over the top.
And another thing to add would just be to keep it simple, and I think a lot of people might take that as like dumbing something down, but it's not. It's more about just showing the core and what that is and just the quality of it. So you don't have to, when you say keep it simple, it's not just like, just throw whatever. It's more just like starting with what you have and making sure that's good quality, and then just working from that point and having a good foundation.
And then next up, obviously photography. Photography is huge. That is the one area you really don't want to skimp out on. So photography on your phone, there's only one person I've ever met that has a phone that took good enough qualities, and it's because they were Instagram based. So their photos were never going to be enlarged. It worked for them, but photography is something that communicates so much. So either getting a camera for yourself, just a small digital SLR, and learning how to use it really well and really playing with it, or hiring somebody. You can take local photographers and do like a once a month shoot with them. It's so worth it because it communicates so much of the value in your product or services. Social media, we won't go too far into this. It's very complicated and changing, and sometimes feels overwhelming. As a rule of thumb, if you can't be regular and consistent, it's generally not good to be on it. If people land on your page and they see that you got 5 posts from 2017, that actually is worse than just not having it.
And 2 of them over your cat or something.
We have a client, she probably doesn't want to tell this story. She came in, she's like, I need help. I was setting up my Instagram page and I accidentally just posted pictures of my boobs as her profile picture. So these things happen.
It was Twitter. It was on Twitter.
Sorry. We love her. Anyway, she came to us and we're helping her have a boob-free Twitter account. Anyway, learning and just being comfortable and playing. As a general rule of thumb, we just say, like with social media, don't feel overwhelmed with anything you do with developing your business. Just test. Your first round is never going to be the right round of anything, whether it's a logo or a brand or color scheme. So with social media, look at what other people are doing, try it out. Generally, you want to react based on what your clients and customers are doing. So if people start liking your posts, then you're doing something good. So look at what it is you're doing there that has had the impact. If people are not liking them, then look into that. So just generally, if your customers are doing things you do like or don't like, that is your indicator that you should be digging in and finding out why. So deciding which one you want to be in, I'll breeze over these. Everyone knows Pinterest. A lot of people don't like it. It can be a really fabulous tool. So even if you have a personal dislike for types of social media, definitely worth considering, again, your customer objectively and how they're going to find you. So I strongly dislike Facebook. That doesn't necessarily mean that our company should not have Facebook just because I don't like it. And there's Facebook, our next one. That's very convenient. I didn't plan that. Facebook generally targets a bit of an older demographic now. It's really good for communicating stories. It's really good for advertising as well, but it's not really as effective as Instagram when reaching a younger market anymore. Instagram is typically between under 40. Facebook tends to be over 40 from now on, so depending on your market, you may want to be on one or the other or both or neither. Snapchat is very challenging to do well. We did a lot of market research on this and talked to people in multiple countries, and generally what we find is that people want to see their friends and family on Snapchat. So if you're going to be a business on Snapchat, you really have to own it and create valuable content. The algorithms to everything are changing immensely right now after the whole Facebook debacle with privacy. Advertising is becoming a lot more strict and regimented, and so creating great value is really what you want to do in anything you do. Snapchat I don't think we've ever recommended it to a business yet as a strategy because it doesn't suit many, but it may well suit yours, so I wouldn't discount it. It is fun. I'm on Snapchat more than anything else, but it's usually to send really dumb pictures of myself. It's fun. LinkedIn is really great if you're reaching out to other professionals. If you want to create articles, so if you're an author, or if you're going to establish a professional B2B business, which is business to business effectively. LinkedIn is a great tool for that. And then Twitter died off a lot. Weirdly, it's still extremely strong in certain industries and with certain markets, so I wouldn't discount it. It can be really valuable. Any other questions about social medias? We good?
Does anybody over 40 use Snapchat?
Probably not. My dad can't even text. It's hilarious. Okay. And then we're just going to continue on. So we're moving away from more of the branded style and talking about the other aspects of branding. Branding doesn't just stop at imagery. It also has a lot to do with customer service. So in your customer service is when you get to build that relationship. So somebody can land on your website or your social media, get a strong vibe for who you are and what you do. When they start interacting with your company, if you don't respond on time, if you respond with short answers or don't properly read their emails, if you, don't inject humor or try to build that relationship, that can really kill your branding. So branding is in every interaction you have. It's in the way that your buttons click on your website. It's in the way that you respond to things. It's in the messaging in your little pop-up if you've got a pop-up on your website. It's really in every minute detail. And so it's so important to really consider that avatar and how they would communicate in any circumstance. Onboarding is something that is relatively new as like SaaS. So if you guys know SaaS, it's software as service. So any software that's online that people can go use. So with the advent of that and the e-commerce market that's obviously huge now, onboarding is the idea that after you've made the sale, that's only half the battle. Somebody can buy your product, but if they don't use it, find the value in it and like it after they purchased it, you've just lost tons of word-of-mouth referrals and damaged the relationship. So onboarding is huge. You can automate it, which is really nice, which is why I put here ActiveCampaign or MailChimp, which are two of the most popular you guys have probably heard of. So they just allow you to send follow-ups and check-ins with people. So after they've bought, if you've got jewelry or if they bought a book, you can follow up with them and find out, how they're enjoying it and make sure there's quality control there. It's huge. I highly recommend it. And then digital marketing. It's a big one. So it's about illustrating value again. We're going to always bring it back to that. It's never about telling somebody how good the product is. It's about laying it out for them so they can discover it for themselves. So when you're doing digital marketing, that is the key to it. You've seen all those ads online where someone's like, do you want to lose 50 pounds in 20 minutes and 30 years younger at the same time? You don't believe it. You've already lost trust. And
That's the person at the party. That's kind of crazy.
that's that guy. Brought it full circle there. Yeah. We also have a hate on for people that wear like really epic statement necklaces in all their videos and the Hal Johnson and Joanne McLeod music. There's a lot of that still goes on. Anyways, digital marketing, you can do it. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram are some of the most common for scheduling ads that people see. And then influencer marketing as well is finding people, this is a really strong way to do it, finding people generally who have strong online followings through any social media platform, or potentially hosted blog articles on someone else's site. So that is a really strong way to do it too, so that's social vouching. Effectively, it's one of the strongest ways you can go about it. Building a website. How are we doing, everybody? This is a lot of information. Are you overwhelmed yet? We're good? Cool. So now we're going to talk about how all that fun branding stuff applies to building your website. So I'm going to go over the basics with you guys because I'm sorry if you do know this, but a lot of people tend to get a little confused when it comes to how everything links together because you need hosting and you know that you need SEO and you need these fun things. So I'm just going to give you some quick language on that. So generally speaking, all of your website files they need to be hosted somewhere on the internet. So your hosting provider can be something you might have heard of Bluehost or WP Engine or GoDaddy does hosting. So there are places that need to have your files hosted. So that's kind of step one. I shouldn't hold this. Oh, I can use my hands. This is great. And then you've got your domain, which is what you buy from, GoDaddy or, that was right in my face. Hi. No, it's okay. So you've got your domain that you purchase, so it's your www. whatever. And you need to, wow, hi. I'll hold it, I won't hand talk so much. Well, you can do the thing, you can show the connections. Here, you be the domain hosting platform. She's the hosting platform, right there. Okay, so you've got your domain. So these are all the files, okay? So the domain has to actually, you have to point it to the files. You have to let the internet know when you go to this domain, where is it pulling that content from? Does that make sense so far? And then in order to modify and edit those files, you have fun things like WordPress or Squarespace or Shopify to log in and edit as if it's like a Word document, for instance. So you can log in, you can edit things, you can change the size of text, you can add imagery. So it's the platform that allows you to edit and modify without having to be a code expert, which is great. Does that make sense? Did I lose anybody? Yeah. Okay. So the platform is what I just discussed. SSL certificates is just that little green lock you see when you go to a domain. If you do not have one, Google does not like you. You have to have one. If you sign up with Squarespace, it is automatic. If you get it through a host, you have to ask for it if you are going to host your website somewhere else. It will reduce your rankings in SEO. So always have an SSL. And SEO is complicated and changing. It just means search engine optimization. It's become extremely complex and beautiful over time. We'll just reference Google, but because they're the main platform, but there are other search engines that we won't talk about. Bing. Search engine optimization, at the end of the day, favors valuable content that changes and is updated regularly, that is honest, and that is something that your user is searching for. So if I am looking for local jewelers in Nelson, and I want just silver. If I search that and your site comes up because you've put that keyword in there, but you don't actually sell silver, you just sell gold, Google will know and they will drop your rankings. So generally just think about how you can convey the information on your site in a way that gets the people who are searching for that content to that content more easily, and Google will love you. This is the end of the story there. No, good. Choosing your platform. So this is where it comes down to, I highly recommend learning as much as you possibly can. It feels really overwhelming. We have clients come into the office every week who are just like, I have no idea what to do with websites, what the industry standards are right now. And what's even more challenging is that every agency you go to will tell you a different story, likely. There's no one-size-all-fits approach. So whenever you're looking for advice, just I always say, never take advice from somebody that you wouldn't want to trade places with. And I think that can really apply to agencies or professionals. If you like who they are and what they do, and you see a good quality in their product, then that's likely somebody you should be working with. If you don't see that, then maybe walk away. So Squarespace we recommend it a lot to small businesses who don't need a highly customizable website. It's your hosting, your SSL certificate, it has some SEO functionality, it's got analytics built in, and it's just like all in one. You pay for your monthly or annual subscription, and it's up and running. You get a free website domain name with it if you buy for a full year. It's easy enough that you can learn on your own. It does commerce, everything you can sell on there, but it's not super customizable. So if you want a super fancy website with things that move, it's not your jam. I put Weebly and Wix in there just so I remember to tell you never build a website on Weebly or Wix. Moving on. WordPress is known as the industry standard right now. It is a fabulous and useful tool. It has a lot of problems as well. So there's positives and negatives to anything you choose. WordPress is, if you don't need a super customized website, I wouldn't really recommend it. It requires updates a lot. Whenever the internet updates anything, like a browser, the template that you use in WordPress needs to be updated, and I mean the code in that template, which means that it gets a little complicated. So it's great, but you do really need professional help often when building a WordPress site, which you don't need if you don't need it to be super customized. Shopify is Canadian. They're really great. They're really good for businesses who have a lot of inventory that they need to manage in the back end. So if you've got lots of different size options, color options, things like that, Shopify is really great. It's better as a back-end management system than it is as a website on the front end, but that sometimes is more valuable. So Etsy, some people don't even have websites, they just have Etsy pages, which is totally legit. Again, minimum viable product. Use what you need and use what will work for you. You can always grow and add things on later. Do you want to say?
I was just going to add one thing that's really great about Etsy that I found is if you're looking at someone's product and a lot of the time it's all customized. Like you say you want a laptop case that's leather and you want a certain size because you have a certain type of laptop and you want a certain kind of buckle. A lot of the times you can actually message the maker directly, and almost every single time that I've done that, they've gotten back to me in 24 hours, and it's just a great form of customer service, because then you know exactly what you're getting, you can talk to them, you can say, actually I wanted this and I wanted that, and I think certain things like that really reinforces the customer buying your product.
Totally. You want to talk about Society 6?
Yeah, so Society 6 is kind of a neat spot. It's similar to Etsy, more for designers, and basically you can upload a design and then you can choose what the design goes on. So like pillows or shower curtain or bedding, the list goes on. You should go check it out. But it's a nice way to see your designs in different formats, and say you wanted to do Etsy instead. Well, okay, I don't have any pillows to put my stuff on. So Society 6 does take a portion of your sale though, so that's something to look into when you're on Society 6.
And they do drop shipping. So when a customer places the order is when the item is made and shipped out by them. So you literally just like upload things and make money. Yay. Okay, so choosing who designs any of your things. If you are technically inclined, give it a try. You can design your own site. You know, just dive in and try to be comfortable and play with it. Things like Squarespace are super easy once you kind of know where to look. So it's worth, you know, hunkering down for a weekend, drinking tea or a whole bottle of wine, however stressful it gets for you, and building that out. If you're not technically inclined, you can have somebody help you. You can do different things in different tiers. So, you know, you can ask somebody to build you a $6,000 website, which you probably don't need while you're starting out. Or you can have somebody help and teach you how to build Squarespace. Or, you know, you can ask a friend, or we have a client who just constantly asks his 14-year-old son for help because they just know everything. It's hilarious.
Oh, and one thing to add when it comes to designing it is mobile optimization. Does anyone not know what that is? All right, yeah, so basically just keep that in mind.
Yeah, so when you build your own, test it on devices, always. What is our next slide? Did we talk about this? Yeah, kind of.
Cross-browser, yeah.
Yeah, cross-browser testing. Website considerations? Yeah, well, let's just move right into that one then. So when you are building your website, when you lay it out, try it on different browsers. So that's like going to Firefox or Google Chrome. Just switch it up because people will use different ones. Try it on different devices. Different phones will display things differently. The internet, every browser and every device will read your code of your website slightly differently. So we never guarantee a client that your website's going to look identical across all platforms anymore. We say it'll look good across all platforms because that's all you can do. It is super annoying, but it is the way that it is. And then just resize it and play with things, because if you know you've built this beautiful website and then you hop onto your mobile and there's huge spaces missing, that's not going to look great to your client. So when you do DIY, when you are hiring somebody, things to look for and ask for, do some research beforehand and go in with a checklist. You do need to interview them and ask them questions, which means you do need to know a little bit about what you're saying. Okay, nearly there. So when you're going in, I often say, and we just wrote an article about it, you can check it out on our website, it's like hiring a tattoo artist. If you go and look at all of their content, you should like at least 99% of what they do. If you like 25% of it, do not hire them, because they're just not going to be on the same page as you and they're not going to get your same style. So look for the style and the quality of professionalism that you would like emulated in your own site. Basically, yeah, UX design and conversions. So when half the battle is getting people to your site and the other one is getting them to buy your product. So when you're designing, again, think about grabbing their hand and walking them through all of your content, which means you don't want to jumble a ton of text for them to read. You know, break it up, make it easy to read, make them able to navigate their own way through your site and be able to find the content they need as quickly as possible. Our last two slides, branding considerations, things to avoid. Do you want to go over these ones?
Sure.
Inconsistency in your branding. That one is very, very important. The more consistent things are, the more memorable they'll be, and just that stronger connection of everything all together. Poor quality of imagery or service. That one's pretty obvious, I think. Basically, if you see a sign that's all blurry, then well, you're not going to read it. Not evolving and changing. So this is just basically saying like, oh, I'm just going to make this thing and it's going to be the same forever. Sometimes that works, but a lot of the time you do need feedback from your customer, and they'll give you valuable feedback, and then you can kind of keep changing things and pivoting and seeing what's going to work. Stagnation, not generating value. Another one that's pretty obvious, self-explanatory, I think.
So evolution and growth. I will say to the end of the earth, no matter what stage of business you're in, you always need to have the mindset of testing and trying. You know, build a website with 2 different landing pages and test them and see, when I change this copywriting on one landing page, my sales go up by 20%, or if I move a button or change the color. These little things, like, you'll learn and become an expert over time, I swear. But just test and play when you put out advertisements. Test the music behind them, test the copywriting you use. Just test and play, and then you'll start to learn about how to reach out to your clients and customers. And again, I talked about this earlier, watching when customers do things you like and dislike. Those are indicators that you need to dig in and find out why they're behaving in a way you do not like, or why they're behaving in a way you do. So if you've got a web page, like your sales page, where they go to buy, you can look at analytics and it'll tell you, 80% of people who land on that page just leave without buying. They've done something you do not like. So find out why. Is it because they're not clear on how to purchase? Is there a button that's not working? Is there no SSL certificate? So they get this big blaring notice that it's not safe to put their credit card details in. Like, you'll find all the errors if you just look into it and find out what people are doing. And then our last piece of advice is always be just a little bit badass. Your business has never existed before. There is no one way to do things. There's no blueprint. So you can ask people advice all you want, but at the end of the day, what you're creating is unique and new. So don't contort yourself to fit what you think your business demands of you. In a sense, you need to consider yourself in relation to your business. If you hate doing social media, don't make yourself do it every morning, because you just won't. So make these decisions and kind of really be realistic about who you are when you're developing anything. So if you're going to work on social media, you're going to build a website, whatever it is, be realistic about what you like to do and don't like to do, and build it. Be a little bit better.
Have fun with it.
Have fun with it. I think that's it.